the name Fisker,
Mm-hmm.
one that's simultaneously old and new, depending on who you ask.
Right.
They were responsible for the Fisker Karma
Mm-hmm.
in 2012.
I think even a
Is
little
that right?
earlier. Around
They
there.
went head to head against the Model S,
Yeah.
at the time being one of the first luxury electric vehicles. It was a plug-in hybrid
Yep.
with a solar panel roof and was known for being pretty cool for its time.
Pretty cool. Famous
The
designer.
company went under. Yeah, Henrik Fisker, the CEO, is a very famous designer. He's responsible for a lot of cars.
BMW
Like
Z8. Aston Martin here and there. A yacht. Apparently, I think
he's
as
been
well.
around.
Yeah.
He's been around.
But
And that company went under.
yep.
There was a little bit of issues.
With battery supplies.
The molds themselves were sold to another company, and the car itself still lives today. The Fisker Karma is just now branded the Karma Rivero. Still a plug-in hybrid, still has a solar panel roof, has the same design concept. It's obviously been updated a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But Henrik Fisker didn't really give up. He went ahead and built a second company.
Mm-hmm.
Or
he basically sold everything off except the name.
So this new company is still called Fisker.
Mm-hmm.
It's been around since a few years now. We've been hearing about it.
2016.
They initially wanted to build a luxury sports car, fully electric, the Fisker E-Motion.
Mm-hmm.
400-mile range, 0 to 60 less than 3 seconds, which at the time was pretty impressive. It still is impressive today, but I know we have a lot of sub 2.5s out there now.
Solid state battery.
Yep, solid state battery. It was supposed to come out in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
We never saw it.
Nope.
And then it was supposed to come out 2019. We never saw it.
Nope.
Here we are, 2020. I still don't see it. Solid state batteries, which is something that's currently non-existent in production vehicles.
Yep.
It would allow range like 400 miles to be achieved,
even
though it's being achieved now without solid state. But again, this was a few years back before battery technology has advanced the amount that it had now. Henrik Fisker decided that the future was solid state battery and put a lot of focus in his company on developing solid state technology. As far as I know, it didn't really get anywhere because, like the E-Motion, haven't heard of it. It's just gone, disappeared, have not been brought up in at least last year.
Possibly working in the utmost secrecy, for all we know. I don't know.
One of the other projects, the Fisker Orbit,
Mm-hmm.
which was a fully autonomous shuttle meant for private properties like college campuses, parks, just A to B shuttles, like set routes, which is very not easy to do, but it's a lot easier to do than fully self-driving cars on city streets.
Right.
So it was realistic. We also have not seen the Fisker Orbit in a few years now.
yeah. Not off to a good start.
And the most recent reveal, which is project number 4 now?
Thereabouts.
The Fisker Ocean, a sub $40,000 car, which is considered as an affordable car.
Right.
Mass produced.
Yeah.
With some decent specs, at least for the time that it was initially revealed, a minimum of 250 miles, maximum of 0 to 60 of 2.9 seconds. The car itself is a crossover that looks pretty nice.
Yeah.
And they have, what's the California mode? That's the name of it.
Oh,
it's a
man.
proprietary California mode.
Henrik loves talking about California mode. All the windows
Simply
go
put,
down.
California, yep. Simply put, it just makes all the windows go down with one button.
Except the windshield, of course.
Except the windshield.
But
it includes the rear mirror and the roof, so.
Yeah, but, I feel like he's more enthusiastic about it than I would expect anyone to be enthusiastic. But, you do you.
Gotta be enthusiastic about something. This car doesn't really exist yet. They've built a prototype.
Mm-hmm.
It is a drivable prototype, but doesn't meet specs at all.
Right.
And that's really where we stand with Fisker. After that, they decided to go public. They felt that they had enough to go public. They did so. They currently have like $1 billion cash on hand.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully some of these projects will be met. But apart from the Fisker Ocean, it seems like the other three projects are kind of dead. We haven't heard of them at all. The primary focus has been the mass production of the Fisker Ocean,
Right.
which was originally said to do 400,000 cars a year, which many found ridiculous, and that number has also, like the Orbit and the Emotion and solid state battery, have disappeared from the media. The new expectations are closer to like 40,000 a year, if that. Current deposits or reservations sit just under 10,000. It's been about a year since they've opened up reservations.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know whether to take that as impressive or not. All things considered, Cybertruck, I know, hard comparison to make, but did 200,000 within 48 hours.
True, but Fisker doesn't have anywhere near the brand recognition to the average consumer that Tesla has.
Yeah. Prior to them going public, they really had no money. They really had no plans. It was like, small startup.
Mm-hmm.
But now, out of nowhere, they have everything they need to succeed. They've secured a partnership with Magna,
Mm-hmm.
which is, Dennis, walk them through it.
So basically, if you're trying to get someone to build a car and you don't want to do it, and you can't convince any other established automaker to create your car for you, this is about the next best thing you can get. Magna has established, I don't even really know how to describe them, an auto builder, but they don't make any of their own cars. So they are basically just contracted out by existing OEMs to just build their cars for them. So currently, they produce cars such as the Mercedes G-Class, BMW 5 Series, the BMW Z4, the Toyota Supra, the Jaguar E-Pace, and the Jaguar I-Pace. So Magna does have experience with producing electric cars on their own, as they've been producing the I-Pace for at least the past 2 years. So it's a pretty solid partnership, in my opinion, for Fisker to go with someone of their caliber.
So this car quickly went from something that was very, very easy to be skeptical at, with no production plans, no manufacturing plants, nowhere to build the car or the money to do so, to something that is very feasible now.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that hasn't disappeared with the other stuff is their ambitious leasing plan.
Oh, yeah.
They look to change the world in terms of car sales. I don't know what the exact number is, something like $400 or $500 a month.
I think
a very low amount, very reasonable amount, get you
30,000 miles a year.
A lease with 30,000 miles a year, no commitment.
Mm-hmm.
If you want it 1 month, you want it 10 months. You want it 10 years, you can make it happen.
Obviously, all done through an app because it's 2020. But it's.
I think originally the Ocean was meant to come out in 2021. I could be wrong, but now they're pushing for 2022. Again, very realistic. Now, it wasn't really realistic back then. I mean, it was very, again, easy to look at with skepticism. Well, but now with this Magna partnership, everything seems within reach. It does look like this car will hit the roads. Magna themselves does have an EV platform. I believe this is being built on their EV platform, correct?
I'm pretty sure. Yes.
So a lot of the questions have been answered. I fully believe to see this car on the road. I hope so.
Well, I don't blame people who still remain skeptical given the initial track record of, where's the Emotion, where's my solid state batteries, where's the Orbit, and even if you don't want to put blame on Fisker's initial bankruptcy directly on him or them, the company, and instead blame it on their, inadequate battery supply or whatever, people just will still remember as like, oh yeah, didn't Fisker go bankrupt already? So I feel like there's still a healthy amount of skepticism coming towards the ocean as a whole. Even though, like you said, it's doing a lot of good things. Price is actually pretty good because it's 37. It's a start of 37,000 before any sort of EV tax credit. So if you put the federal tax credit, the full amount, that comes out to a $30,000 car with 250 to 300 miles. Looks pretty decent. Has a, and if you're not buying it outright, has a very interesting and flexible lease plan. It has a lot of things going for it, but I still, I'm cautiously optimistic. 2022 is still a ways away, so we're not at the home stretch yet, even though they're riding high on their new listing and newfound money. But this is definitely has the most amount of legitimacy I have seen from any of their previously announced projects.
We've seen something similar from another company, Nikola, company that just releases a bunch of new projects,
Mm-hmm.
but then they kind of just fade off into existence. Nikola Wave, Nikola NZT, RKT, whatever their names are.
The Reckless.
Obviously, the intention is to grow hype and get people talking about the company so that way they can get funding and investors and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this is a case of that working, or is the orbit, emotion, and all that actual things they're working on still?
This is one of those cases where I feel like, again, they had the intention and either came up with they don't have enough money, they don't have enough manpower, or the technology still isn't there yet. I don't think it's to the extent that Nikola was, because I'm pretty sure I remember when we saw Nikola initially, they had like 6 or 7 projects announced right then and there. At least with Fisker, it's been kind of like drip fed of, okay, here's the emotion, and then it's going to use solid state, and then here's the orbit, but it was kind of spaced out, so it doesn't look like a kamikaze attack of products. So I think it's a more subdued strategy. But I don't think those going back to your question, I don't think those projects really built up that much hype, to be honest with you, because I almost think no one knows what an orbit is, if I'm being honest with you. And I only think that people will know the emotion only if they were into electric cars back in 2016, 2017, 2018. So I don't really think those previous projects contributed to a lot of hype in Fisker's current form. I just think that it was the fact that it's another electric car company, and Fisker's, obviously not Elon Musk level, nowhere near in terms of like popularity, but people know of his designs. People have looked at his work and appreciate the cars he designs, so they're like, oh, that's kind of cool. So that's where I feel on that stance.
Well, just because it didn't work doesn't mean it wasn't the intent.
Okay, that's fair. But I don't know.
This is another case of a company that really wouldn't be in the news if they didn't go public, basically.
Yeah.
If they didn't go public, they wouldn't have had this Magna deal. We would have still been hearing about the ocean at the same scale we were hearing about it last year.
They would have probably only reached this hype only like the month or so before the car actually released, when there was an actual finished product. Then there might have been this amount of hype if they were private.
Do you think these 10,000 reservations are impressive?
Hmm.
What do we have them to compare with?
I mean, when we live in the world of Tesla's constantly rising amount of cars they sell every single quarter, it kind of really skews your expectations. So I feel like yes and no. For a $40,000 car, it's probably not that impressive, considering you want this to be a mass market car. But at the same time, once again, Fisker in its current form is unproven, and I feel like Fisker is still associated as a luxury brand. So, the common person doesn't want to even look at Fisker or even dares to look at the price because they just assume that the car is going to be expensive.
Do you think Fisker is a name that the majority of people know?
No. No.
Do you think more people know about them now than they did with the original Fisker Karma? Do you think they've surpassed their previous legacy? Keep in mind, the Karma was mainstream with people like Justin Bieber driving them around town.
Yeah, I don't think so. Mostly because, at that point, Fisker had a car on the road. So even, regular people would be, oh, what's that? Is that a Model S? No, Grandpa, it's Fisker. While now it's, they don't have anything on the road. So unless you
and somehow they're more successful now.
Right. So unless you're deep into either electric cars or you're deep into stocks, you probably are not well versed in Fisker in its current form.
So there's still a lot to do in terms of marketing this vehicle because they do have to escape this little financial bubble.
Oh yeah.
Because especially being a new name, there's not a lot of people who are going to change from a Tesla to a Fisker.
Yeah.
They really need to reach a new audience. They have no dealerships. They don't have a constant steady supply of people knocking on their doors.
I mean, I think the price point's definitely going to help them out if they can achieve it, obviously. This is all big ifs. If the car is made, if the car is delivered with the promised specs, if the car is delivered at the promised price. But a $30,000 car after tax credit is it's a pretty good deal.
Starting.
Starting. Yes, correct. That 2.9 second one isn't going to be the starting by no means. But still, an electric car at 30 grand, you can at the very least tell consumers that you are cheaper than a Tesla, assuming the Model 3 doesn't drop aggressively in the next 2 years. So, I mean, that's definitely an avenue.
As a crossover, this is competing with the Model Y.
Yeah.
The Mustang Mach-E.
I-Pace.
The Jaguar I-Pace.
e-tron.
Possibly Hyundai Kona, e-tron.
iX3, BMW.
Where does it fit in that lineup for you? As obviously we don't know interior quality, we don't know full-on specs, so just on the design standpoint, where are you putting this on the tier list of electric crossovers?
I'm putting it. I'm putting either one or two.
Who's number one? Or number two, I should say.
Mach-E might be one or two.
So this is ahead of the Model Y. You heard it here first.
Yeah, I said it.
My boy Dennis.
Don't at me.
Hates the Tesla Model Y. At EVBite on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, it's just obviously a lot of it has to play with the fact that we have seen Tesla become one of the most. I mean, they're not commonplace,
so
obviously, but there's so many of them now.
It's just a common car.
I see a Model Y, and it's very close to a Model 3. And it's like I'm almost
Model 3
and
it's close to a Model S.
Yeah. So it's almost like I've been seeing the same car more or less for the past 8 years. So obviously I'm like, it's not.
It's grown stale.
There's nothing wrong with it, but I'm like, I need some color in my life. I need the next new hotness. And Mach-E looking good.
It makes these new EVs coming out exciting.
Ocean look good
because it's something fresh.
Exactly. So
there's a lot of people that will take the fresher look over the range, especially if you don't need it. A lot of these new EVs don't have the range competing with the Model Y, like nowhere near. This Fisker starts at 250 is the minimum that they want. The Mustang Mach-E is sub 300 as well, right?
Yeah, 210 on the lowest one, and up to 300.
There's a lot of people who don't need the range and will prefer the better looking car, and maybe the Mach-E isn't the best looking car. Maybe the Fisker Emotion isn't the best looking car. Maybe it is the Model Y. Maybe if Tesla had released this car today rather than 10 years ago, it'd be different. But as it stands, it's grown stale.
Yeah, I feel like that's really the only place where you can kind of knock some points against Tesla is the fact that the cars have looked more or less the same. The interior has more or less looked the same. So I would hope that that Henrik Fisker can utilize
the great designer.
Yes, his his decades of design experience to really kind of hammer in on that one weak point that he can hammer against Tesla and design a car that people look at and be like, damn, that looks pretty good. What is that?
It really is one of their only advantages. They don't have the specs, they don't have the performance, they don't have the technology. They have his looks. They really have to sell looks here.
Price is kind of there, and I don't want to discount the unique leasing system either. So, but I just might be like too technical of a sell.
I for some reason have more hope in them actually producing this car than I do that leasing agreement.
Yeah,
that's a little ambitious.
Yeah,
I hope to see it. At $400 a month, I might have to buy one. might just need a road trip car.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird to say something like that, but yeah, rent a car for a whole month, a Fisker, and then just go on a road trip. So.
I truly hope this. There's a lot of companies making these statements of wanting to move in this direction for years now. No one's actually done it, and I do hope that we do see it one day.
One day, someone's gonna have to bite the bullet because I can't really see it being profitable.
If it's Fisker, that could also be their,
that could be their claim to fame
to the top.
Yep. So, like always,
no service yet, right?
Yeah.
A lot of unanswered questions still.
So, like always,
there's a partnership in place.
It's a waiting game.
They are further ahead than the Nikola Badger, as is everyone else, and we shall end it there.
Relegated to the sidebar of their own site. Badger is on the death row. But yes, we will keep on looking at Fisker, and I hope 2021 doesn't come around and I have to look at my boy Gio and be like, so what happened to the ocean? I hope...
and then I bring up the rest of the missing products.
And then Henrik announces yet another car that will not be made. Yes, wait and see.
Hopefully this is the one. Hopefully,
fingers crossed.
And hopefully the emotion is reborn, because I'd still love to see it. And the Orbit was also a fantastic idea, which I hope to one day see. Solid state battery, I don't know, because, back in the day when they were working on it, they were saying 400 miles of range is going to change the world, but now we already have 400 miles of range, so do we need it? I don't know.
Henrik, please.